Okay, so let's continue our discussion of the terms of the audit engagement. And in this particular instance, we're going to be discussing the change in the terms of an audit engagement after the audit has already started. And this is in AUC sections 210.14 through 17. And let's take on 14 and 15 together because they sort of go hand in hand. So it says the auditor should not agree to a change in the terms of the audit engagement when no reasonable justification for doing so exists. And if prior to completing the audit engagement, the auditor is requested to change the audit engagement to an engagement for which the auditor obtains a lower level of assurance, for instance, a review or a compilation from an audit, then the auditor should determine whether reasonable justification for doing so exists. So we've got some explanatory material sections here, so let's go down to those and get some more color on what all of this means. All right, now we're down in the explanatory material, and this is regarding the request to change the terms of the audit engagement. So let's pretend the client has come back to us and decided to change the terms of the audit engagement that we had originally put into place, and we're now either pretty far along into the audit, or this is maybe the next year of a subsequent audit. But there may be several reasons for why the client might want to change the terms of the engagement. For instance, there might be a change in the circumstances affecting the need for the service, like maybe the loan at a bank was paid off, and so now the client doesn't need a full audit anymore. Maybe the client just misunderstood the nature of an audit, and once they learned about the nature of an audit, they decided that they didn't want to do that. Or maybe now there's a restriction on the scope of the audit, whether that's due to an outside circumstance or that's imposed by management. Now, these first two, for instance, a change in circumstances or a misunderstanding about the nature of the audit, which sounds like would be pretty reasonable reasons to change the terms of the engagement, but restriction on the scope of the audit is a little tricky. So we would need to understand why the scope of the audit needs to be reduced according to management's request. And so if this reduction in scope is caused by the audit firm maybe finding misstatements, or they're not able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, and so management decides to scope out that particular area of the audit or reduce the level of assurance of the audit to a review, those would not be good reasons for changing the terms of the audit. And normally we should not accept such a change because that really goes against the ethical standards of the profession. And so let's say that management does have a good reason for reducing the scope of the engagement to the audit engagement to a review engagement. Then for purposes of our documentation and our reporting, we need to pretend like we didn't originally have that audit engagement. And we document and report everything as if it's been a review engagement this whole time. And of course, we need to issue a new engagement letter with the new terms of the engagement. But as far as our audit documentation and reporting goes, everything points to the review work done and doesn't make reference to the originally planned audit at all. That way, no one's really confused about what's going on. So now we're back up to the requirements. We just discussed 14 and 15. So let's go through 16 and 17. And we pointed out this, but if we change the terms of the audit engagement, we need to document the new terms in a new engagement letter or some other form of a written agreement. Maybe we need to add an addendum to the original engagement letter, something like that. But something so that we have an agreement with management on the new terms. But if it turns out that we don't agree with management's justification for the change of the terms of the audit engagement, then we need to withdraw from the audit engagement. We need to communicate the circumstances to those charged with governance, and then we need to determine whether any obligation exists to report those circumstances to any other parties, for instance, owners or regulators.